So my name is Elizabeth Wild. I go by Lisa. My maiden name is Giovanello. My relation to Peter and Mary Giovanello is that they are my parents. Currently, my career is managing the HIPAA privacy program for Rochester Regional Health in Rochester, New York. Previous to that, my career was in health information management, which is a long title for managing medical record departments, mostly operational. I was born in Islip, New York, which is on Long Island, but I only lived there till I was 3, and my parents moved out to the southern tier. I grew up in a small town called Angelica, New York, and Angelica is so small it doesn't even have a street light. There is basically a blinking light, and that's about it. Um, and I went to a small central school where kindergarten through 12th was all in one building. So, very, very small country town. My childhood was very unique in that my father is an immigrant from Italy, and my mother was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. So she was a city girl. And it was very unusual to have that mix living in a small town in upstate New York. There was no other Italian families in the area, and it was just unusual. And we lived on a very large farm. There was no neighbors for miles, and so I have an older sister, an older brother, and a younger brother, and we played on the farm and had adventures outside and had a very happy, very unusual upbringing, very imaginative. We had to kind of make things up because we didn't have a lot of friends to play with or playgrounds to go play with. Um, Back then, people didn't have cable TV, so you got whatever channels you could get with your antennas on your TV. So we watched TV, but usually at night, not a lot of it. We played outside a lot. Um, and as I got a little bit older, wanting to get out and see people, I would beg my father to um, go to work with him because he worked at night. So from a very young age, we would help him out at his pizzeria, and that was fun. So my childhood was very unique is the way I would state, because I think other kids my age lived a very different life. Um, the food that we were fed was very organic before organic was even a word. Being on a farm, we had our own chickens and cows and pigs. So we ate a lot of very healthy meats. And then my father always would have a garden. My mother cooked all the time. She would bake her own bread. When we were really little. As she got older, she started helping my father out at his store. So there was less of the from scratch stuff, but she still cooked every night. We rarely took a vacation. We um, but we had fun. We had fun. We would go to the movies every now and then. We would do things with my cousins because my cousins ended up moving to the area, um, and just a happy childhood. Having a father from Italy, when you're little, you don't know any different, and I knew he had an accent, but it was my father, so it just that's the way it was. and he is dark complected, and everybody else is not as dark complected. So he looked very different from the people, because we're, the small town that we were in, there wasn't a lot of diversity. And even though he's just Italian, he was dark, very dark skinned. He spent a lot of time outside during the day before he went into work. So he was tan on top of dark skin. So he also has a different outlook than, say, an American father. Um, Very strict, very opinionated, very proud of his heritage, um, hard working, and I don't know if that's his personality or that's his being Italian. We were not allowed really to just hang around and not do things, lay around on the couch and stuff. We were expected to do things. We had a good life, but we had chores. And like one of the things that I did was I titled myself the turkey herder, because in the summer, Papa would get half a dozen turkeys as, little chicks, and would raise them and then butcher them for food. And so my job was to bring the turkeys out into the fields so that they could catch grasshoppers and eat them, and grow kind of natural, because they like to eat bugs. So that was my job. And another weird thing that nobody really would relate to unless you were with our family is, he had in his pizzeria, he had vending machines, not vending machines, but like pinball machines, and like Pac-Man machines, and a jukebox. And he didn't own the machines. They were owned by another company that would come in and uh, take the money out and split with my father the profits or whatever. But this company would give my father um, food that had come out of vending machines, like old candy bars and those old sandwiches that would be like in a refrigerated machine or whatever, and they would be outdated. And instead of throwing that food in the dumpster, they would rather have it used. So they would set it off to the side, and then once a week, my mother would go and pick up all this discarded food, and she would bring it home in the trunk of her car, and that's what we fed our pigs with. And I know that sounds weird, but the pigs loved it. I mean, who wouldn't love a day old Snickers bar? So we would, it's kind of embarrassing, but we would just, or Papa would throw a bunch of this food, wrappers and all, into the pig pen. And these pigs had become accustomed to using their hoof and their snout, and they would rip into the package and they'd gobble up the food. And of course, again, embarrassing, we would, as kids, go through, and if we found something that looked good, we'd eat it, because whatever it was, I mean, it was still good. It was just past the expiration dates. So gross to a lot of people, but it was fun because we didn't have, my parents didn't buy us candy. Pizza King um, was such an important part of our lives, and is an important part of my life. It's hard to explain. It's almost like it's another family member. Um, so we just spent, I mean, there wouldn't, a day wouldn't go by that one of the family members wasn't there. My mother worked the morning or the lunch rush, and my father worked the dinner rush. Um, then my mother used to call it passing ships in the night, where my mother would be, 4 or 5 o'clock. My father would come in. My mother and father would talk for a few minutes. She'd go home. He'd stay. And us kids were spattered in the mix, of all of that. So Pizza King was a family member. We kept it alive. We loved it. Um, we were known, or we still are known. Our family is known by Pizza King. Um, to this day, people, here I live 2 hours away from where I grew up, and people still relate me to Pizza King, or they'll say, "Aren't you a Giovanello?" And they just know. So Pizza King kind of defined us, I guess, in some sort. It provided a whole family of six, all the money we needed to live, and everything else. And I love the business. I love the building, you know. And Papa was the patriarch. He was the brainchild of that whole business. Paul has expanded it beyond what it ever was, but it's still alive, you know. It's changed locations, but it's still Pizza King. My choices on leaving and pursuing my own direction, I think, were the right choices. Just like, like I said, how Pizza King is part of the family. Um, I love my parents. I don't want to live with them every day. Pizza King, I'm proud of what it is. I love to go and visit, and I never feel like a visitor. I feel like it's still ours, even though it's Paul's in essence. Um, so I don't. I would never have wanted that for a career, and my parents didn't want me to have that as a career. So I love my chosen profession. I like where I live. Um, and no, I would not want to be in that area. I It would have limited me in things that I can do and people that I've met, and it's very country. So that's why I think I made the right choice. Paul, it would be the second generation, I guess, right? Second generation uh, of Pizza King owners. I would like to see it passed on. Um, so I'm not sure if it's in anybody's future to take that on or take that over. Um, I know Paul's worked very hard, and he deserves all the success that he has had with that business. Papa has enjoyed his successes, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that because a lot of businesses fail, a lot of restaurants fail, something like 50%. Papa has a cannot fail attitude, and there was no doubt in his mind that he would not fail. And he's done that with several businesses in his life, and that's what makes him a huge success. I think he would do anything to succeed.